Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to True Courtroom Stories. Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible piece of legal history, and it all comes from the fantastic research of Mr. Zahir Ahmad Mir in his book, True Courtroom Stories. We're going to uncover the ancient origins of a legal idea that protects millions of us today, the benefit of the doubt.
You know, we always hear the phrase innocent until proven guilty. But just for a second, imagine a world where it's the other way around, where just being suspected, where public anger is enough to decide your fate. That's the world we're about to step into. And it really makes you ask, what is justice actually built on? All right, let's get into it. Our story starts way back in the early Abbasid Caliphate. The scene is a courtroom, but the stakes, they are unbelievably high. This isn't just about some stolen item. A person's life is literally hanging in the balance. And the decision made here, well, it would echo for centuries to come. So, at the very center of this whole firestorm is a young slave girl. She's standing there, accused of a really serious crime, stealing a valuable necklace. And you can just feel the atmosphere in that court. It's tense, it's charged, and everyone is pushing for a quick, harsh judgment. But here's the thing. The case against her was basically built on a foundation of sand. Yeah, public suspicion was through the roof, and the crowd was angry, demanding a conviction. But the evidence, it was all circumstantial. There was no direct proof, nothing solid that actually linked her to the crime. It was a classic showdown of emotion versus cold, hard facts. And into this super tense situation steps our main figure, the judge. A man named Qadi Abu Yusuf. Now, he was someone who understood that the court of public opinion isn't a real court of law, and he was about to bring in a strict, logical standard that would cut right through all that emotional noise. So it's really important we understand what evidentiary standards actually means. It's not about what you feel is true or what you think happened. It's all about a set of rules for what you can actually prove. Qadi Abu Yusuf? He wasn't interested in suspicion. He was only interested in proof you could see and verify. His method was this simple but incredibly powerful checklist that he applied to the whole case. Question 1. Was there an eyewitness who actually saw her take the necklace? The answer was no. Question 2. Did she confess to the crime? Nope. And question 3. Was there any other kind of direct, undeniable proof? Again, no. So you can imagine the scene. The crowd is waiting, totally expecting a guilty verdict. The prosecution has made its case, but it's all based on suspicion. But the judge, he's used his strict standards and has seen that the case is full of holes. This is all setting the stage for a verdict that would change everything. Acquitted. With that one single word, Qadi Abu Yusuf went against all the public pressure and stood up for a higher principle of justice. The slave girl was free to go. Why? Because the case against her wasn't built on certainty. It was built on doubt. And this is the powerful reasoning he gave. Doubt destroys punishment. Just think about how profound that is. He's saying that the power to punish someone has to be based on being absolutely certain, not on the shifting sands of public anger or emotion. This right here is the birth of the benefit of the doubt. Now, this decision wasn't just about one girl or one necklace, not even close. It was like a seed that would grow into a huge tree of law, with branches that reach all the way into our world today. Its legacy is, well, it's truly incredible. The impact was almost immediate, and it was huge. This principle wasn't just some nice idea he had. It became official. It was written down as a core rule, a foundational idea in two major schools of Islamic law, the Maliki and the Hanafi schools. That made sure it would be studied and passed down for generations. And you can draw a perfectly straight line from that courtroom to ours. The Abbasid principle was doubt destroys punishment, which required certainty. Well, that evolves directly into the modern principle we call the benefit of the doubt. And the idea of needing certainty, that's what we now call proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The connection is crystal clear. The timeline of this idea is just staggering when you think about it. It starts in the Abbasid era, travels through centuries of legal history, and then boom, fast forward over 1,000 years to 1997, and it's being cited in a Supreme Court case in Canada. And today, in countries like Pakistan, it is a fundamental cornerstone of the entire legal system. What an amazing legacy. We really hope you found this story as fascinating as we did.
If you enjoyed it, please do us a huge favor and hit that like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe to our channel so we can bring more of these incredible stories to light. So, we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. The right to be seen as innocent, the idea that the government has to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt, these aren't new ideas. They're ancient principles, hard-won and passed down through history. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many of our other modern rights have these same kind of deep, ancient roots? Today, we're going to dive into a single, powerful idea about justice. And it's all drawn from Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir's research in True Courtroom Stories. You know, it's an idea with roots so deep, it literally connects our modern courts to a world from over 1,000 years ago. You've heard this phrase a million times, right? In movies, on the news. It's like the bedrock of criminal justice almost everywhere. But if you ever really stop to think about what those words actually mean, the incredible weight behind them, what level of certainty are we really talking about? Well, to get to the heart of it, we're not starting in some dusty law library. Nope, we're going to go on a journey. We're jumping in a time machine and heading way, way back, over 1,200 years actually, to find the ancient seed of this very modern idea. Okay, this right here, this is our starting point. It's an Islamic legal maxim from the 8th century, from the brilliant jurist Abu Yusuf. Now, it might look unfamiliar, but I promise you the principle that's locked inside this phrase is the key to our entire explainer today. So what does it mean? The translation is so direct, it's kind of stunning. Penal punishments fall away due to doubts. Just let that sink in for a second. The whole idea is that if there is shubuhat, and that means any doubt, any ambiguity, any bit of uncertainty, then the most serious punishments, well, they just can't be applied. The system has to, and I mean has to, lean on the side of caution. So you see, this isn't just some rule, it's a whole philosophy. It's a fundamental safeguard for anyone accused of a crime. It says that the burden of being absolutely certain rests completely on the prosecution, and any failure to get to that level of certainty, well, that's what protects the individual. It's a pretty powerful statement about how much we should value a person's freedom. Okay, now hold on tight because we're about to take a massive leap through time. We're going from 798 AD and we're jumping forward 1,200 years, and hopping clear across the globe to Canada to see how this ancient idea finds its voice in the modern world. And this just illustrates the connections so perfectly. Just look at this. On the left, you've got the 8th century idea, punishments are canceled out by doubts. On the right, a 1997 Canadian Supreme Court ruling, a high level of certainty is required for criminal conviction. It is the exact same principle. It's like a direct echo across 12 centuries. Absolutely incredible. So today's legal systems are really built on that same foundation. That Canadian case, R versus Lifchus, it was a total landmark. Why? Because it didn't just use the phrase reasonable doubt, it went out of its way to define it, to really nail down the presumption of innocence, and to make sure juries understood just how incredibly high that bar for conviction is supposed to be. But here's the thing, right? This parallel between an ancient Islamic jurist and the Canadian Supreme Court isn't just some cool historical coincidence, no way. It actually reveals this shared, universal philosophy of justice. It's this recognition by totally different cultures in totally different times that protecting people from being wrongly convicted is, well, it's a cornerstone of any fair society. And we see it everywhere else too. I mean, as the source material points out, the Supreme Court of Pakistan constantly brings up the benefit of doubt doctrine. So this isn't a Western idea or an Eastern idea, it's a human idea. The thinking is that if the scales of justice aren't tipped decisively one way, they must fall in favor of the person who's been accused. So at the end of the day, it all boils down to this really simple 3-step process that has stayed the same for more than 1,000 years. When some doubt pops up and you just can't get to that high level of certainty, justice has to step in and protect the individual. That is the timeless, rock-solid core of this entire principle. The journey of this one idea through history it's just amazing. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please do us a huge favor. Subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and please share it with your friends. It honestly helps us so much to keep making explainers just like this one. And I'll leave you with this question to chew on. We've seen how vital doubt is for protecting the innocent. But in a world that always wants clear black and white answers, how high should we set that bar for certainty? You know, it's a really delicate balancing act that our legal systems and really all of us grapple with every single day. Thanks for watching.
All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're tackling a concept that's, well, it's the very bedrock of modern justice. It's this powerful idea that can literally be the difference between someone walking free or spending a lifetime behind bars. We're talking, of course, about reasonable doubt. So, what does that actually mean? Let's dive in.
Now, this sentence right here, this is the core of everything we're talking about today. Think about how absolute that is. It doesn't say maybe or if you feel like it. It's a hard and fast rule. If there is just one single thing that creates a reasonable doubt, the whole case for guilt just falls apart. It's not a suggestion, it's a command. Okay, so we have this powerful idea, this doctrine of doubt. But what does it really mean when you're in a courtroom? Let's break down the standard that every single prosecutor has to meet. The most important word in that whole phrase is reasonable. We're not talking about some wild, out there, what if an alien did it kind of doubt. No way. This is a doubt that's based on reason, on the evidence, or maybe a lack of evidence. It's the kind of serious uncertainty that would make you, a rational person, stop and think twice before making a huge decision in your own life. Make no mistake, this is the highest bar, the toughest standard to meet in the entire legal system.
And just so you know, a lot of the insights we're digging into today come from the fantastic research in the book True Courtroom Stories by Mr. Zahir Ahmed Mir. It's an incredible resource for seeing how these big legal ideas actually play out in real life.
So, okay, theory is great, right? But what happens when this isn't just theory anymore? What happens when a person's life is actually on the line? Let's take a look at a couple of landmark cases from Pakistan's Supreme Court that show this principle in action.
So here are two really key cases. First, you've got Ayub Masih. In that case, the witness stories just didn't line up. They were inconsistent, and that was enough. That created reasonable doubt, and he was acquitted. Then there's the Mohammed Mancha case. There, the problem was a lack of solid forensic evidence. Again, that gap was enough to open the door to reasonable doubt and freedom. See, these aren't just random numbers and names. They're powerful examples of the Supreme Court saying, nope, the prosecution story has to be absolutely solid. No holes allowed.
And what's really fascinating is that this idea isn't new, and it's not just a Western thing either. The way Pakistan's legal system thinks about doubt, well, it actually goes way, way back. It mirrors the principles of the famous jurist Abu Yusuf from centuries ago. He was the one who said it's better to make a mistake and let 1,000 guilty people go free than to punish even one innocent person. That's a powerful idea with some serious history.
So you might be wondering, why? Why set the bar so incredibly high? Why make it so tough to get a conviction? Well, the answer gets into the deep philosophy of what justice is all about.
This quote really just nails it, doesn't it? The whole system is built on this one fundamental choice. We would rather let a guilty person walk free than ever convict an innocent one. So you see, doubt isn't a mistake or a bug in the system, it's a feature. It's the most important safeguard we have to protect us from the massive power of the state. And that brings us to the real moral of the story here, the very soul of the justice system. It's an idea that might actually change how you think about the whole point of a trial.
Just let that one sink in for a second. The main goal isn't to get revenge or just to punish someone. The number one goal is to be accurate. It's this moral duty to make sure that the incredible power of the law only comes down on people who are actually guilty. And that, right there, is why every single piece of evidence has to be looked at so carefully and why every single reasonable doubt matters so much.
So here's the big takeaway, the most important thing to remember. When someone gets acquitted because there's doubt, the system isn't broken. Not at all. It's working exactly the way it's supposed to. It's actually designed to lean or to be biased in favor of innocence. That's the whole point. And hey, if you found this breakdown valuable, it would mean a lot if you'd subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and maybe share it with your friends so more people can get a handle on these super important ideas. It really leaves us with a pretty deep question to think about, doesn't it? We live in a world that's always looking for 100% certainty, for black and white answers to everything. But in the courtroom, in the halls of justice, it's actually embracing uncertainty. Embracing doubt, that's the mark of a truly just society. So the question for all of us is, where do we draw that line?